Blackbird, episode number 5. My name is James, and today I am joined once again by Jose Galison. Jose is here to talk about his kind of side hustle, breeding cats. It's a very interesting business to get into. He and his wife have found great success in it. And as one of the goals of this podcast is to learn and teach self-reliance and self-sufficiency, I figured this would be a good idea for anybody who is an animal lover or just is looking for some way creatively to make extra money. Before we get started with Jose, I want to remind you about BeYou Enterprises. BeYou invites you back to your own body, at your desk or on the mat, at work or at home. BeYou offers breath awareness and postural alignment awareness with small exercises that you can insert into your workday right where you are, wherever you are. BeYou offers mind-body classes like Pilates and yoga to help you free your own body from stress, repetitive movement, and disuse. BeYou invites you and your employees back into your body. You'll feel better and you'll save money. Contact BeYou Enterprises to book a training, either in person or virtual, for yourself or your team at BeYouEnterprises.com. That's BeYou Enterprises.com. And with that, here is my latest interview with Jose Galison. All right, Jose, welcome back to the show.
Hey, what's up, man? It's glad to be back. We were actually talking before this, and like we've had a couple conversations, and hopefully we can do more. I feel like we have a good chemistry. Like I was telling you, like even though I've had some big guests, you're like my third most watched episode, just us shooting the shit. So I mean, hopefully there's more to come here. It's a budding bromance.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Doesn't even have to be bro, really.
Yeah.
I mean, no, I'm just kidding. My honey, I didn't say that. No. Hey, so we wanted to talk about this nuts business you've got, breeding the ugliest animal in the world, according to me, but perfectly sweet and maybe even cute to some people. Why don't you kind of introduce that for us real quick?
Yeah, I'm Jose. I mean, a lot of people know me for like the living room and stuff, but I also have a side business where I just gonna go ahead and say ahead of time, since we're kind of going to like agoristic stuff. Everything I say here for legal reasons is a joke. All right, cool. I'm covered now.
It's hilarious.
Just starting from here, everything's just a joke. But yeah, I have a cat business. I sell Sphinx hairless cats. Whenever we bought my house that I have here, it was kind of the perfect house. It had like roughly about 1,000 square feet of area that was just kind of like perfect for what we were wanting to do. And yeah, we sell hairless cats. I mean, I'll probably go into a little bit more of like what got us into that and stuff, but I'm sure those are probably questions James has, and I don't want to just like do the whole pod right here in the intro. Go ahead.
No, just ramble.
I sling puss.
I don't know anything about breeding pets. Like, what? I mean, what? Yeah, tell me about that 1,000 square foot space. Where is it? What does it look like?
Well, like I said, it was just a house we got. We were looking for a new house, me and the wife, because we kind of lived in generic the suburbs for a while, and we were just kind of over it. And I think we had a couple Sphinx at the time, and we just like really loved the breed, and we kind of always kind of shot the shit about like just getting into breeding, but we were just like kind of wanted to dabble. But yeah, when we saw this house that we were looking at, and we had a couple acres out here because we wanted to get a little bit more in the country, but not too in the country. So we have 2 acres out here. Completely fenced in. And when we saw the house, there was about 1,000 square feet of the house that is what's called a Florida room. I live in Florida, and it's this essentially closed in porch, but it has a cement floors. It's just kind of a perfect area, so it's easy. Like, say we have cats there, it's like it's kind of broken off from the rest of the house, so it doesn't, because cats, they can be gross, if they pee or whatever. You don't want to be, especially if you're running a business, you don't want to bring clients over and be like, smell like the old lady's house that has like 20 cats.
Yeah.
So
sure.
I mean, obviously cleaning does that, but then also to some extent having it separated from the rest of the house in that way, like to where it's essentially supposed to be like external porch that just got screened in. And yeah, so it was kind of the perfect house. We were like immediately saw it, and we just immediately visioned like this could be the perfect place for that. But even at the time, we weren't thinking about how large of an operation that we were going to end up having. Not that we were running it like a cat mill out of here or anything. We have, I think, about my wife's probably gonna yell at me if she ever watches this because I'm really bad at remembering. I things like, how many we have and stuff. I think we have 14 cats altogether, but some of those are house cats, just like, pets. But we have a huge house, and some of them live in that little area. But I think we have like 5 breeding females. So yeah, and then I'm kind of rambling now, but you get the idea. We got the house, kind of perfect little area to have the cats, and so this was kind of like drew us to it. There's also an outside porch that is like because one thing with the males is they mark, so you can't keep them inside. You just can't. And luckily we live in Florida, so it's like we don't really have that issue of like, the hot or the being too hot or being too cold. And we've kind of figured out, too hot is an issue in Florida, but we have figured out a system outside where we have fans and we've set up blinds and stuff, so they're not like dying out there. And also during what you can kind of consider a winter in Florida, we have set up heaters and stuff outside. We've gone pretty high tech with it. But yeah, the boys are comfortable outside. The porch there is perfectly like an easy like composite material that you can spray off for when they pee or whatever, because that's what they do. Male cats, that's one of the biggest drawbacks in like breeding, which like if you're some person out there who's like just wanting to get into breeding, I would suggest don't, unless you know exactly what you're getting into, because a lot of people do that and then find out, oh shit, the boys pee everywhere. Yeah, they do. And then now you have this animal that you're trying to rehome, or your house just stinks. So yeah.
So do they ever come into your actual house, or do they just stay in that breeding area?
Well, the boys, they don't come in very often, but they do come in. Yeah, it's funny. My wife actually found that there's like little diapers you can get them, so she'll bring them in because she actually loves the boys. The boys are super sweet. And I don't know, like she just loves them because they're so masculine, and they just because like we have one named Vlad who's just yoked. Because like because most people don't see like tomcats, and especially with them being hairless, you kind of see more of their musculature, and because when they have hair you don't really get to see it as much. But when you don't get them fixed, they get pretty big and they get pretty bulky. But for some reason the boys are like super sweet. Like they're just like the sweetest. Like unfixed males are probably like the sweetest cats there are. I don't know why. They're just super sweet, but then they're yoked. And my wife loves it. So like we have Vlad, and he's a black Sphinx, and he's just huge. He's got a big blocky head. Looks like a friggin' pit bull and a cat mixed together. And he just lays in her lap like nothing, But we just got to keep the diaper on in case he runs off, because if he doesn't, he'll go pee.
Yeah. That's crazy. So that's logistics kind of. Mm-hmm. What about marketing? How do you get the word out there? I'm assuming I don't even know what I'm assuming. What's your how do you find clients and stuff?
It's actually, when we first got into it, we only started with 1 litter. I mean, that's how most businesses start. You start out small, and we started with 1 litter, and we kind of actually went priced way low in the market because we just did not believe that how expensive they were, like, and how much people were selling them for. Come to find out, the first litter that we sold, they sold within an hour. Like just gone. And I think my wife, I want to say it was like Craigslist at the time or something, or maybe it was like Facebook. I don't know what it was, but she only set out like 1 ad. Marketing is not an issue, is the point I'm getting at. It's such a high demand business, and there's not a lot of people that do it, that it just they sell like hotcakes. It's one thing we just cannot keep up with the demand at all. And so yeah, we ended up raising the price later because it was like why not? Supply and demand. That's how it works. We if anything, we could probably raise the price more if we want to. We kind of just feel like we'd be going nuts with it. But yeah, every litter we've had has sold probably within a day. Once we put them up for market, we've actually gotten to the point now where we have a wait list, so we don't even really have that issue. But before that, everyone we had sold within a day. And if it didn't sell within a day, it was just because my wife, who does most of the marketing and deals with the clients, it was just because she was being lazy and wasn't answering texts. But if anytime she's actually put in the effort and like gone within a day, like it's actually absolutely insane. Because when she first got into it, I was just kind of like, if anything, I always joke and tell people, was like, it's kind of like when your wife wants to get into something like Avon or something. You're like, okay, that's nice, honey. Whatever makes you happy. And then like the first litter just sold within an hour. And I was like, Jesus Christ, I think there's something here. And it's like, okay, maybe this is actually a legit business and not, something we're going to lose a bunch of money in.
So I assume you started out with just 1 male and 1 female?
Yes.
And how many cats come out in a litter? Kittens, I guess.
I mean, obviously you can have just one. You can have, I think the largest litter I think we had with either 7 or 8. I can't remember if it was 7 or 8. Honestly, I'm really bad with like I said, I'm bad remembering stuff like that. But yeah, I think it was like 7 or 8. It's the largest we've had. I mean, that's a pretty large litter. I'd say an average is probably like 3 or 4 you get out of it. And like I said, for legal reasons, it's a joke. But they roughly, I'll tell you on the mark. I'm going to tell you what we charge because the IRS might be watching. But normally they go for about 2,000 each. So you can probably do the math there, and obviously there's overhead and stuff that comes into play. And we are very much bougie in that we like to take care of our animals. And so we go above and beyond. We very much take the approach that, for one, we like to treat the animals good because that kind of helps with, their health, producing good litters, healthy kittens, it's also good for the marketing side of things. When clients come over, they see good looking cats, they see a good looking house that you take care of, where the cats are at, so on and so forth. A lot of people do where they try to like decrease their overhead to a ridiculous amount and they just end up with some nasty, that's where you hear like breeding horror stories, so
Yeah, that's what I think of when I think of breeding is like the kitten mill or the puppy mill.
Which is kind of funny, not to go off too much of a tangent, but that's kind of one of those there's really something there where people do this, they equate capitalism or just free market in general to that and like just greediness, but people don't even think like it's actually not even good. While we do it, a lot of why we do it is because we like our cats, we take care of our cats, but also there is some aspect of like that's what's good for business. Like, sure, maybe you could, going the other route and having the horror story, cattery is what they're called. You could, make some quick money, but you're not probably going to stick around for the long run. If you want to have a good business for a long period of time, it makes sense to, spend a little extra money, put in a little bit more care, provide good customer service, so on and so forth,
So with the litter sizes being so unpredictable, I mean, anywhere from 1 to 7 or 8, uh, how do you like let someone on your waiting list know, oh, hey, she's pregnant, but it might not be your turn yet. You might have to wait another however long the gestation period is.
It's really that simple. We let them know when they're born. We let them know. And then it gets even more difficult too, because there's coloration and sometimes certain colors don't really present until they're older. And some people have really specific requests. So, and then the biggest one that we always have is people will request blue eyes. And eyes are a thing that doesn't really set until I want to say it's like 6 weeks, or maybe it might even be 8, where the color doesn't fully set. So people will have like, oh, I want blue eyes. And it's like, we always have to be like, well, you're kind of have to gamble here because we can't hold a cat for you forever. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. I mean, we've worked with some people to make stuff like that happen. I know some people are really set on that, but a lot of things don't really come into play until later. I kind of rambled there. What was the question again? I kind of brain fart.
No, I was just wondering like how you communicate to the customer when like is it when the cat becomes pregnant or is it after they give birth? Is it a certain number of weeks?
I think my wife handles most of this stuff.
Sure.
One good thing to do, I would suggest, is if you're going to run a business like this, have someone who's willing to do a lot of the business stuff for you. That's really helpful.
Well, unless you are the
wives
business
are great
person.
for that. What?
I said
But yeah,
unless you are the business person, in which
yeah.
case
I mean,
like
most what I do is just, taking care of the cat room, which is cleaning, scooping litter boxes, just general manual labor. She handles the finer side of things. But yeah, we usually will tell them like when they're pregnant and let them know ahead of time. But it is like we're just letting them know like, hey, this doesn't mean you're necessarily going to get one, especially if they have a very specific request. But we'll keep tabs as time goes on and people will claim. And we have like, depending on how you are on the wait list, you get different preference, you know what I mean? But it's a whole clusterfuck. It is get a little crazy with the waiting list because it is like I said, especially with like eye color or even skin color, sometimes it doesn't like, because for example, like one of the rarest colors with Sphinx is like chocolate, which is like a light brown, it's actually like a mutation off of black apparently.
mhm.
And so it's super rare, but they come out as flesh colored. So they just look, and to be honest, flesh colored are kind of the boring ones. I mean, but, and that's like what you think of when you think of your like when people think of Sphinx as the flesh colored ones. And if anything, those are probably the ones we get like the least. But I digress. point I'm getting at is they come out and it's not even until later till they start presenting the chocolate. So it's like a lot of people will overlook them and be like, no, this is like a diamond in the rough kind of deal, you know? Because like most people don't really care for the flesh colored ones because they want the cool colored ones. Unless there are some people who are really set on the flesh colored ones because they had the idea of a sphinx in their head if they've seen the movies and that's what they want.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the point I was getting at is the color doesn't set until later, and like even though you could think it's the most boring thing, it ends up being like the most rare, coolest color. Because like the chocolate ones are really pretty too. It's like just a pretty color. I don't really know how to say other than that. So kind of rambling again.
No, yeah, it makes sense. That's awesome. So what's next? How long do you keep the cats before you actually, release them to the client? Is it immediate? Or is there do you wait a couple of weeks to make sure they're not going to die?
Like I said, my wife handles. I'm pretty sure it's either 12 or 14. I'm completely blanking on this, and I feel like an idiot right now. But
That's
pretty sure
12 or 14
weeks.
days.
12 or 14 weeks is when they
okay.
go. It's somewhere between there. I want to say it's 12. For some reason, I'm thinking 14 right now. I think 14 might be their last round of shots because legally they need certain shots. I think 14 is their 14-week shot. So that's why I have 14 in my head. But I'm pretty sure they go home at 12, and then they have 14-week shots later. I'm just thinking out loud right now, trying to remember the numbers because there's so much stuff we have to remember. But anyways, yeah, 12 weeks is when they go. They go home to when they're basically completely weaned and they're just, they're ready to go at that point. By that time, the mother doesn't really want shit to do with them anyways. A lot of people think that's one thing. It's funny. Like, people do have this idea that it's like cruel to some extent because you're like taking away from their mother. But a lot of people don't realize how a lot of animals work is by that time, the mother wants nothing to do with them anyways.
And especially domesticated animals. I mean, yeah. They are genetically predisposed to be around humans now. Like,
yeah,
especially, cats and dogs. That's kind of just how they've evolved. You said you have 5 breeding mothers. How often then are your cats, giving birth? How often do you have a litter to sell out?
I mean, they probably have like 1 to 2 litters a year. It just depends,
Each?
Yeah, roughly.
Okay, cool. So like between 5 and 10 a year. Almost one a month. That's great.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to predict because, stuff comes up and, like sometimes they won't get pregnant within the heat or whatever. I don't know. It is one of those ones. It's not the greatest thing to have as a stable, like only job, but it's a good side gig but it's definitely not because you could there's a gigantic range in basically what you can make in a year. So if you're trying to plan your life around it, it's not super stable. It's all over the place. Because like I said, like you could put in all this time and effort and have a cat that has one kitten,
Yeah. All right. So let's, so that's kind of the ins and outs of the business, I guess. What about kind of the agorist part? Let's say if you were actually engaging in this hypothetical business that we're joking about right now, what are some of the things that you would be expected to do by the state, and what are some of the things that you just say, nah?
I mean, really, the agorist side of things, the biggest thing would probably be the money, really. I mean, aside from that, I mean, you'd be kind of almost stupid to try to dodge around the state and the other things because, like, the biggest things are, like, you have to get them their certain shots, and then you have to get, like, health certificates and stuff like that. There's certain things that are required by the state, and it'd be kind of dumb to not because it's just, like, there's not really any sort of, like, upside of not doing it, especially since in a sense what you're doing is just providing some sort of certificate that your animal's healthy generally. So, I mean, I don't know. There's not really any reason why you would want to skirt around that. The biggest thing would be the money side of things. And being as what am I getting at? There's a lot of opportunities for cash, cash business is what I'm getting at. And you can kind of get where that goes. We've debated on possibly maybe offering crypto, but I don't think a lot of people want to go that way. I mean, most people are like PayPal, Venmo, or cash is how this business usually works. And I'd probably say like half of it's cash. So you do have the other
That's
side.
Surprising for $2,000.
Huh?
That's surprising for $2,000 that people are paying cash.
Yeah, I mean, we don't always do it, but we kind of usually sometimes we have before offered discounts for cash.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because it's preferable. And like I said, I think I said a minute ago, we've debated offering crypto, but it's not going to be a whole lot of people who would do that. Especially where you don't have a ton of clients. So
yeah. Well, I mean, look, if it was me, I would be offering it. I mean, even if 0% of my clients took me up on the offer, I'd still want people to know, hey, there's actually a business out. But that's just because I'm a crypto evangelist. I'm not like a business
Yeah.
person really. I'm just
I to be honest, I'm still yet to even figure out crypto. I know it's a sin, but I need to.
oh
I'm just such a busy person. It's just like I gotta sit down and just like do it. And it's like for me, I'm not a tech guy, so it's like so daunting. But it's
yeah.
one of those things that once you do it, you're like, oh, okay.
Well, I still like, I don't understand how crypto works. Like,
Mhm.
if you ask me what a blockchain is, I can probably muddle my way through it. Um, all right. So cats, why sphinxes? Is it just because that's what you had as pets, or is there like a
That's
certain,
yeah, it really just ended up working out that way. That's what we had. My wife always wanted one, and then she ended up getting them. Um, Kind of a interesting story of why we ended up actually going the breeding route, and why we actually ended up expanding is my wife. I don't know, probably about 5 years ago ish. I'm really bad with times as well, so I'm off on how many years ago it was.
Jose and numbers?
Yeah.
We got it. We got it. We're good.
Yeah. But anyways, she probably about 5 years ago ish, she started having seizures. And we had a long time that before we could finally figure out something that could get them stabilized, like medicine wise. Luckily now she's gotten to the point where she's on a medication that, she almost never has seizures. She'll have what's called like focal seizures, which are mini seizures, but not an issue. But back then she was having full blown grand mal seizures is what it's called, where,
Wow.
what you expect of like some, person convulsing on the floor and all that craziness. And she used to have all that. And she was really concerned that she was going to have a hard time keeping her job because, there's a whole other, like, we can go down the rabbit hole because the state really fucked us in a lot of ways with all that. Cause she lost her license and then we kind of had issues with getting it back. And then we ended up, it was so hard to get back. I mean, I'm kind of going rabbit hole, but it's so hard to get back. We ended up like just saying fuck it and driving anyways. And she got busted and then got hit with driving without a license. But the only reason she was driving without a license is because she was having such trouble getting her license back. But yeah, it's a whole mess. Anyways, point being, she was worried that she was going to lose income from her job. And so we kind of expanded that a little bit to kind of, to somewhat make up for what we were anticipating she may end up losing money there. So yeah, that kind of just, we ended up developing that side gig there since we were concerned. Luckily, we've kind of been able to keep everything. She kept her job, was able to kind of weather the storm, and, we were able to make things work, bend over backwards to be able to get her to and from her job and not have her like, and her work didn't fire her. Another thing too is like kind of bring up, is kind of pertinent to the conversation. My wife works in the veterinary field, so that's actually a large part of why we got into it, is because she is able to, she has a wide breadth of knowledge in a lot of this stuff. So, like I definitely, that's another reason why I wouldn't suggest people just getting into it unless you have some sort of knowledge, because there is a decent amount that goes into it, my wife can go on about different parasites that can infect catteries and just, all that different shit. So she has quite the knowledge there. I wouldn't be able to make it work without my wife. But yeah, anyways, yeah, that's kind of went on a tangent there. But yeah, we developed it because my wife fucking, we were worried about losing her job. And the Sphinx just so happened to be just because we liked Sphinx and we had Sphinx. And whenever we bought the Sphinx, we're like, holy shit, this thing is like, we spent like $2,000. We're like, what? No way. And like, so it was just kind of something I always thought about. So I'm like, how hard would this be? Because a lot of people don't realize, like with like cats and like, because people always think of breeding and they think of like, they always will talk about like breeding dogs. I don't know why people always want to breed their dogs. Breeding dogs is generally pretty terrible because it's just gross. Because like puppies are gross. Like these are like, I've known people who've had litters of puppies. They're just gross. A lot of people actually end up keeping their litters outside for that reason. But it's just it's logistically more of a pain in the ass, and they're
Yeah,
just kind
dude.
of gross.
When
And
when I
cats are way cleaner,
when I adopted my dog, we went to we adopted him from a foster family, but it was his whole litter. His mom had been found in a dumpster pregnant, uh, so they just put all the puppies up for adoption, and like literally they had them in the foster family's kitchen in like a little playpen, and the whole kitchen floor was just covered in poop. It was
Yeah, it's
so
gross.
gross. It stunk. It was nasty. Their fur
Yeah,
was
they just
matted.
mother cats will literally like, it's kind of gross, but they will literally like clean their kittens. Like will basically eat their shit and lick their piss. Like they take care of that. Whereas dogs, they just just do your thing. You know, I don't know why, what the difference is between the two of them, but yeah, cats are way more clean in that regard. You know, they're way easier to take care of. The cats do a lot of the work for you, the mother cats. So,
How very
but,
wholesome.
yeah.
Do most breeds go for 2,000 a pop, or is Sphinx somehow in higher demand for some reason?
I'd say, well, I mean, are you talking about like other breeds of cats?
Yeah.
Just in general? I can't really speak much on other breeds of cats, to be honest with you. Honestly, with cats, there's not a ton of different breeds. I mean, normally it's a cat, which is like, I think I want to say it's domestic short hair is what a normal cat is, you know, but that's what most cats are. I mean, there are some weird ones like trying to think of some
Like
of the different
Siamese.
types. Yeah, Siamese. There's Maine Coon. There's some other, I can't remember. It's like a mountain something. There's a really cool looking one that I've always thought would be cool to have. There's Bengals, but I mean I can't really talk much about pricing them because I never really like looked into it.
Sure.
But I mean I can speak on the difference in pricing within Sphinx because like I was talking before about how the chocolates are more rare. So there's different pricing in the coloration too. So like there are, I mean, you can raise the price. I mean, we generally kind of just sell them all at the same price, but you know, we've had some like really beautiful ones before that we've upped the price a little bit for because it's like, you know, people are going to really want it. Supply and demand, you know, this is something that's cooler, you know, than the rest. So we're going to up the price. And that's the thing a lot of breeders do too, because like the chocolates are super rare. There's like also what's called a chocolate torty, which is even more rare, which we have one, which like, I guess like we've talked to other breeders who've like never even seen them, which like a torty is when it's tortoise shell, which basically just means it's like kind of a,
like a modeled spotty look.
Yeah, modeled spotty look, but it's like different shades of chocolate and stuff. And it's really pretty. It's really cool looking. We have a mother that's and she's actually produced other chocolate torties, but point being is you can kind of raise price with those, but generally the baseline's around like 2,000 ish. So, but I mean, I don't know, like you might add a couple $100 if it's something really cool. Some people go crazy with it. Within Sphinx, there are other subcategories of breeds. I'm probably going to butcher this. There's Bambinos, which are like short legs. I don't know if you've seen them. I mean, my opinion, I don't, it's kind of like when you see people who breed these monstrosity of dogs that are like unhealthy as hell. It's kind of the same idea. They give them shorter legs and it is really funny looking, but it's kind of like that cannot be good for the health of the cat. People raise the price of those because they're basically a breed within a breed. So, you know, and which makes sense. They raise the price. And then there's Dwelfs, which are like, they have like these weird ears that are kind of bent back. So they kind of look like elves. I don't know. People go crazy with that. I don't really care for that personally. Yeah. But that was just speaking on pricing. Yeah.
Are Sphinxes hypoallergenic?
Oh, that's a good question because that's one that comes up a lot. They are reduced allergen because they still have hair. A lot of people are mistaken in thinking that they don't have hair. They kind of have peach fuzz. So like, and they even have differing levels of peach fuzz. There are some that are fuzzier than others. So there are ones that are pretty dang naked, but there's technically no such thing as a completely hairless cat because they all have some sort of hair, but the more hairless they are, generally kind of the grosser they are. Cause like people, they have a reputation of being like gross, being like sweaty ball sacks or something. And there are ones that are like that. And those are the ones that are like super hairless. And some people really like that. I don't know why. They think it's like more authentic to have like a super duper duper hairless one. But I generally prefer to have like the fuzzier ones because the thing with the fuzzier ones too is they're less care as well because a lot of people don't realize the hairless cats, because they have less hair, part of the function of a cat having hair is it kind of wicks the natural oil that comes off of their skin. So it kind of is almost like a self-cleaning thing. Whereas the more hairless they are, the less that function occurs. So the more you have to bathe them. So if you have like a super hairless cat, you're going to have to bathe that thing like probably, you know, once to twice a week, which is just a pain in the ass, you know, like you don't want to have to do that with a cat. But now you have ones more fuzzy, you might have to do it like, you know, once a month.
I don't even wash my own sweaty ball sack that much.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, that's why I prefer the fuzzier ones. But some people prefer the more naked ones. I mean, if that's your thing, you probably wouldn't want to come to our category because if anything, we kind of select for that with mothers to have a little bit more fuzz because, you know, it's kind of like just better, they kind of end up with gross. And then when they have more oil too, they attract more dirt. So and that's why you have to clean them more, because they look dirtier too. You look at them and they're just kind of get caked really quick with dirt and shit. So
do you guys do
shit, but
do you guys do so you do the shots? Do you do like spaying and neutering or declawing or anything that a client might ask for before they go through?
No, we actually do contracts, and in our contract, we do not allow them to declaw. I forget what their recompense will be if they do. I want to say it's that I'm pretty sure most of the things in our contract, if they break the contract, that we are entitled to take them to essentially small claims court, and we can get the cat back and do whatever we want. I think there's something in there about getting money too. I forget the particulars of our contract. But yeah, we definitely frown heavily upon declawing, because people who don't know anything to declawing, you're basically cutting off essentially think if you cut off your fingertip, like that top knuckle, that's essentially what declawing is. Which and I understand if you don't, because a lot of people don't understand what it is. And I completely get like being like, I don't want this animal messing up my furniture, but I don't know, figure out alternatives, not cut off their fingernail. Yeah. Not cut off their fingertips, because that's pretty brutal. A lot of people don't realize how rough that is on them. And animals in general are usually pretty stoic things and it's not like they can tell you how much it sucks. So like, I don't know. People seem to have this idea that like, oh, they seem fine, they're doing okay. It's like, yeah, well, they're not. They don't really have a very good way of telling you that sucks. So yeah. All right, no, well, we frown on it.
Is there anything?
Sorry, spaying and neutering. We don't spay and neuter. That is one thing that some breeders do, and we've always found that to be kind of shady, because if anything, it's like this weird. I think they do it in a lot of ways to prevent people from breeding, because it's like they're trying to make sure they prevent competition.
I just meant it as like an add-on service. Like if the client said, hey, can you go ahead and take care of this for me so I don't have to do it.
No, we generally don't think it's good to spay and neuter that young of an age. It's better to wait till they get a little bit older. And and that's another thing in our contract. We also don't let people breed, because it's like we don't want to be giving out these animals, and people always seem to have the idea that I'm just going to go, I'm going to flip this thing and make money, and there are irresponsible people out there who aren't thinking through it intelligently, and they just make bad decisions. So, we will sell breeding rights to certain people, but we have a high bar for what we consider someone we do, because we don't really care. We're not like doing it because we're worried about people cutting into the business or anything, because it's like I said earlier, the demand is so high that it wouldn't really cause an issue. So it's more that just we're trying to be ethical, and just like like we don't want people just doing crazy stuff like that, because people do that too.
Yeah, it sounds like you put a lot of thought into the sort of ethical considerations around this, which is like I said at the beginning, that's not the stereotype of a breeder. You think of like these mills that just, I guess, backyard breeders where they're just kind of throwing all these animals in a pen and waiting for somebody to come get them.
Like I said earlier, it's funny because it is like there are those mills, but they don't last long, because what ends up happening is like there are actually communities of like Sphinx people out there. Like there are Sphinx groups on Facebook and stuff, and for people looking for them. And when those do happen, the word gets around quick, and they are like, they are shunned. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm sure they're still selling it, but it makes their life a lot harder. So it's kind of one of those things that kind of naturally selects its way out. But and then also other breeders, there's actually surprisingly most established breeders do a lot of the same things we do. So they kind of essentially create a natural bar, of entry and through, what we would consider ethical ways. Like nothing there is something that we're involving the state. I guess technically you're taking them to small claims court, but we can get in the weeds and be like, in a true free society, you would take them to,
Sure. Yeah. There's contract enforcement and stuff.
Yeah.
And, just about any sort of libertarian plans. Okay. Is there anything else about your business that you wanted me to ask you about that I didn't?
No, I can't really think of much. I think we covered it. You're gonna, popped all over the place.
All right.
But, yeah.
Cool. So here's what I'm getting from it. Don't be a breeder, because it's not as easy as it seems like it would be on at first glance. If you are going to be a breeder, do it responsibly. Have some land and some space to put them, and keep the males outside, because they're going to piss all over everything.
Basically, that encapsulates most of it. And have a wife that knows a lot of shit if you're gonna do it,
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Or a husband
Yeah.
who doesn't mind cleaning up shit. So
yeah, it's a good mix. I'm very good at manual labor and just generic menial tasks, and she's good at doing smart shit. So we've got a good division of labor here.
match made in heaven. All right, cool. Anything else you want to plug?
Not really. Like I said, I got the new. By this time, I'll probably all be already be advertising it for my No Way Jose channel. I mean, also got the Liberty Movement YouTube channel. Yeah, I got all my socials. I mean, which I don't really do much on those anyways, other than advertise. So, but yeah, I don't really have much to push. I mean, I'm assuming you'll probably put whatever in the video description. I'll send over my stuff. But I mean, I could go on forever. I mean, you get to a point where you're like, and we're over here, and we're over here, and we're over here. It's like I just sometimes I just don't want to do the spiel. I feel like at the end of like a commercial where you're like, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, I appreciate your time tonight. It's been a lot of fun. Best of luck in the cat business. Doesn't sound like you really need the luck though. You guys are killing it.
Yeah, we're doing all right. I mean, if anything, we had the boom with all the COVID stuff, but yeah,
for sure.
But everyone spend their stimulus checks, but yeah.
Exactly. All right, awesome. Thank you, Jose. Talk to you soon.
We'll see you, man. Bye.
All right, thanks again to Jose for joining me today. Always fun to catch up with him. I have also uploaded a bonus episode for paying subscribers on the Substack, which you can find at blackbird.substack.com. It's just an episode of Jose's podcast that we did together, which you can also find on his podcast feed. But for convenience sake, I put it there on ours as a bonus episode. If you would like to become a subscriber, just go to blackbird.substack.com to sign up. And whether or not you do it there, be sure to hit the subscribe button wherever you're listening. Leave us a thumbs up, ratings, reviews, all that good stuff. You know the drill. I will make sure to put links to all of Jose's stuff in the show notes, along with a link to BeYou Enterprises, our sponsor for this episode. Thanks again for joining me this episode, and I will see you on the next one. Until then, live free.